Jessica Wilcox from Granite State Clean Cities and Hannah November, Vermont Clean Cities intern. We are going to be recording this this webinar for anyone who registered but is not able to attend. So just be aware that we are recording it. If we were in person, we'd be having some nice Scooby snacks while we have this chat, but that's not the case right now. So hopefully you've heated up your lunch or have a sandwich next to your computer. We're gonna start with just a brief overview of Vermont Clean Cities, the Clean Cities, what we do for our stakeholders, because we're sponsored by the Department of Energy. It is one of our requirements to explain kind of overarching what we do. Then we'll go into the panelist, Jennifer Green from the City of Burlington and Burlington Electric Department. Adam Holmes, University of Vermont Ground Supervisor, will be presenting. Sean Tumblety from EcoSmart Landscaping. We have a pre-recorded interview and some video from him. And Steve Westbaum from Eco Equipment Supply in Charlotte. So our goal is to present kind of some high-level information about why electric lawn equipment, when did this kind of all start for us here in the region, and then get into some Q&A where our panelists and participants can really kind of get into some questions. Next slide. So right now, all attendees are muted. The webinar is going to be recorded, and then we'll send you a link to the recording once we finish this, either today or tomorrow, whenever Microsoft Teams produces it for us. Next slide, and then just Hannah, you could take over the housekeeping.
Yeah, so hi everyone. We have some little pointers in case everyone here isn't super familiar with using Microsoft Teams. So this is kind of just an image of the Teams interface, and it's what it should look like for most of you. So starting from the top toolbar, if you want to see who else is in this call, to view the participants, you click that little button with the people. If you would like to view the chat, you just click the chat icon and the bar should pop up. Should pop up from the left. And if you have something to say or like a comment, question, you can raise your hand and then we can unmute you to kind of call on you. So we kind of ask that if you have anything to say, you first type it in the chat, or if you have any comments, if you'd like to spark discussion. And then we also ask that you keep your audio turned off to minimize any background noise or feedback. And you're welcome to keep your video on, but just know that we are recording this. And you do that using these icons over here. And if anyone has any questions about how to use Teams, you can just pop those in the chat too. So we have our first poll, and I can launch that. So the first question is, what best represents the industry you are affiliated with? And you will all see that pop up in just a minute. So we'll give everyone just one more minute to answer the poll. It looks like we've gotten most of the responses. And if you marked other, feel free to put what you consider other in the chat also. And then so we have our next poll question, and what represents your top interests in this webinar content? So I will launch this poll. Okay, so in one more minute, we'll move on to the rest of the presentation. And I think that you should be able to go back and answer these questions at any time in the presentation if someone you know is going to join soon.
Okay, Jessica, do you want to take over this part of the presentation?
Perfect. Thank you, Peggy. And thank you to all of us for joining us on this chilly day. I'm Jessica Wilcox. I am the grants manager at the Air Resources Division at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and also the coordinator for the Granite State Clean Cities Coalition here in New Hampshire. That's a program housed at the Department of Environmental Services. So our Granite State and our Vermont Clean Cities Coalitions, we're part of this larger nationwide network of nearly 100 Clean Cities Coalitions that are supported by the U.S. Department of Energy, or DOE. We work with vehicle fleets, businesses, and municipalities to reduce petroleum use in transportation through the advancement of alternative fuels and fuel efficiency strategies. So alternative fuels and equipment are those fueled by something other than gasoline or diesel, and that includes electric. Next slide, please. So on the ground, Clean Cities coordinators like Peggy and I serve as educators and problem solvers for our stakeholders in New Hampshire and Vermont. We're fuel agnostic and technology neutral. Fleets, businesses, and municipalities that join our coalitions are connected to a wealth of information and resources. So if you're interested in being added to our mailing lists and connecting with our coalitions, please reach out. We're happy to get you joined and connected. Next slide, please. So our coalitions are made up of stakeholders, many stakeholders, consisting of public and private fleets, such as state, municipal, utilities, and fuel and beverage supply companies, businesses such as fuel providers and vehicle manufacturers, municipalities such as schools and universities, regional planning commissions, and energy and sustainability committees. And all of these stakeholders are working in support of our efforts to improve air quality and foster economic growth through the advancement of affordable domestic transportation fuels and other fuel-efficient technologies. Next slide, please. We promote alternative fuel successes and solutions through education and outreach, such as stakeholder meetings, webinars like the virtual National Drive Electric Week webinar that Peggy and I hosted on mobile and bidirectional charging. And we collaborate on events like last September's Bi-State Electric Vehicle Connector at Hypertherm in the Upper Valley. Clean Cities partners are putting the rubber to the road, deploying propane school buses, using natural gas refuse trucks, as noted in the bottom right photo, and hybrid electric transit buses in that top left photo. Next slide, please. Since the inception of our program in 1993, Clean Cities Coalition projects have achieved a cumulative impact in energy use equal to nearly 10 billion gasoline gallon equivalents. Now, our coalitions contribute to this impact, and we do this each year by collecting data from our stakeholders for an annual report. Now, in 2019 alone, in New Hampshire and Vermont, our stakeholder efforts reduced a combined 2.8 million gasoline gallon equivalents, so not just a drop in the barrel. And now I will turn it over to Peggy to share a few relevant general and financial resources. Next slide.
Thanks, Jessica. So right, as Jessica said, we part of this larger Department of Energy program. We work with the technical response teams, which are tied to the national labs. Important to note here, and how it's relevant to stakeholders and clean cities in this particular webinar, is that we worked with Steve Wisbaum from Eco Equipment Supply, the National Renewable Energy Lab, and Green Mountain Power on trying to find the right kind of data to show a displacement of petroleum and greenhouse gas emissions in order to develop the first really the first in the nation in purchase incentive that displaced greenhouse gas emissions, not just air quality, which there's a difference between GHG and air quality, believe it or not. But anyway, this was big, and this is one of the things that we do. So we have access to these resources. So any obscure question you have about fueling or infrastructure, please reach out to one of us, and we can kind of help reach out to our network to get you some responses. Next slide, please. So the commercial electric lawnmowers, as many of you know, they're big. Some are diesel, some are gas. And one of the questions that will come up later is what's the funding for it? What's the purchase incentives? Jen Green will talk about the purchase incentives for Burlington Electric. But for those outside of the BED territory, you can look to the DERA state fundings. It's a Diesel Emission Reduction Act. Those are state programs, so state grants that there are lots of criteria, but school districts, municipalities, all can apply for it, businesses. And the idea is that you are taking an old diesel machine, an engine, it needs to be scrapped, and then replacing it with the cleaner technology. And the electric lawnmower will fall under that category. So please reach out to Jessica or me to find out about what funding is available with DERA. Next. So the case for electric lawn equipment. Certainly these two pictures will just show obviously a difference. We've certainly gotten used to diesel and electric mowers. Anyone who's worked at home in the past several months has probably heard them over the summer. But what's really interesting is that like the first little stat there is over 17 million gallons of gasoline are spilled each year, just refueling lawn and garden equipment. Yes, indeed, there is someone who measures how many drops are spilled. That's a lot. That's for those of us of a certain age, that's more than the Exxon Valdez spill. Do you remember that? That's big. And then the emissions, an hour of mowing is equivalent to the emissions of 11 vehicles riding for an hour. Again, significant. The greenhouse gas emissions, 87 pounds every year just for one mower. The sound as well. The gas-powered mowers are between 82 and 90 decibels. The leaf blowers, I mean, those are things that folks are wearing on their back. So that's really, the ear damage is significant. And you can even hear it through the, through your ear protection, right? And as I mentioned, Clean Cities worked with Eco Equipment Supply, Green Mountain Power, and NREL to develop that first commercial electric lawn equipment purchase incentive. And that just rolled out across the state. I'm sure Steve will correct me if I'm wrong. 16 out of the 17 utilities in the state now have purchase incentives for electric lawn equipment. So what does that mean for those of us who are looking at our state energy plan? One electric lawnmower displaces between 500 and 1,000 gallons of fossil fuel a year. That's big. And the electric lawnmower can reduce emissions by 5 to 10 tons per year in Vermont. So that goes back to that slide earlier that Jessica had mentioned about what we do to displace some of these fossil fuels. And they're 10 to 20 decibels quieter. They're not absolutely silent because you have the blades going on, but it's a less jarring experience. So next slide. With that, I would like to introduce Jennifer Green. Jennifer Green is, sorry, not yet, the Director of Sustainability and Workforce Vitality. She works with the City of Burlington out of the, Burlington Electric Department. And her work involves efforts to transition Burlington's to a net zero energy city in the thermal as well as transportation sectors. She supports designs and implements projects within BED. She works across city offices and works with stakeholders throughout Burlington. I'm fortunate to work with Jen a lot on lots of our projects. She joined the Burlington Electric team after several years in the city's Community and Economic Development Office, where she oversaw the city's sustainability plan and the climate action plan. So Jen, you're next. If you can give us some overview on the BED purchase incentives, Tier 3, and the success of the electric lawn equipment incentive.
Yeah, you bet, Peggy. I really want to thank you, and I want to thank Jessica so much for making this happen today. Always excited to talk about lawn equipment. And if someone said to me a bunch of years ago, what's really going to inspire you about your work, it probably would not have been electric lawnmowers. But this is my life now, and I'm really happy about it. So as you mentioned, Peggy, I want to talk just very briefly. I know we've got a nice full panel, so I won't take a lot of time, but I do want to talk briefly about the Burlington Electric Department, its history that led us indeed to net zero energy and this new strategy that we're excited about, and then how our electric lawn mowing equipment is all part of that larger effort and initiative. So again, as Peggy mentioned, my name is Jennifer Green. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Workforce Vitality at the Burlington Electric Department, which is a municipal electric department, one of 16 city departments. For those of you that are not in Burlington or maybe not in Vermont, important for folks to know, I think, that Burlington became the first city in the country to source 100% of its electricity from renewables. So that includes wind, solar, biomass, and hydro. This happened in 2014, and honestly, it happened sort of quietly without a lot of fanfare. I think then city leadership started getting a lot of interest from journalists and folks outside the city. It became really apparent that this was quite a phenomenal achievement. So having accomplished that, I think leadership then sort of all put their heads together and said, okay, what is next? What's our next big, ambitious to do now that we have managed to transition away from fossil fuels, away from coal burning and other noxious forms of electricity. So we decided that we were going to, as Peggy mentioned earlier, transition away from fossil fuels in the heating and ground transportation sectors. So that's where we are today. We're looking out towards 2030. And we're looking at many types of ways to electrify both ground transportation and heating, including heat pumps, EVs, et cetera. And part of that effort includes lawn mowing equipment. So I'm happy to let you know of all our programs. I think our lawn equipment rebate, at least at the residential level, is probably the most successful effort that we've launched. To date, just shy of 240 residential mowers, not insignificant given the small size of our community, and 2 commercial lawn mowers, one at BED and of course one at UVM. So I know that we're looking forward to hearing from Adam about that. $100 for the residential, $3,500 for the commercial, plus thanks very much, an additional $300 from Mean Green. So the commercial equipment now is beginning to gain some traction. There's a lot of talk about it. And I can tell you that regardless of residential or commercial, and some of the positive, the negative externalities that Peggy mentioned in the beginning of her talk, spilled fuels, carbon emissions, pollution, noise, et cetera. We are seeing some really nice positive externalities beyond, of course, helping Burlington transition away from fossil fuels. And I think part of that, honestly, is the low entry point, particularly for residential mowers. We're seeing a lot of civic pride. We're seeing people really embrace, they're excited to tell their neighbors about their new electric lawnmowers. And I think it provides an opportunity for everyone, almost regardless of income, to engage with this transition away from fossil fuels. So you really can't understate the sort of the civic pride and excitement that comes from being able to participate. With $100 off a residential mower, we're talking of quite a significant reduction in the total cost. The other sort of positive externality I would mention, in addition to sort of the civic pride and the way that it enables many people to engage in our sort of energy revolution, is the fact that we're supporting local businesses. So there are 2 hardware stores in town that we're really excited to tout. And we think that's really important in terms of economic development and, again, sort of building and touting our local businesses. So I think I'm going to stop there, Peggy. I'm really excited that we have some of the experts on the line. And just to conclude with really a thanks again to you for all your work in helping us tout the electric lawnmower equipment, and a reminder that it's a nice way for folks to get engaged. People are excited about it, and given the price point, people are happy to participate. So thanks, Peggy. Appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Great, thanks, Jen. Yes, and as a reminder, lots of the other 16 of the 17 other utilities also have purchase incentives. We can also send out a list of those resources for you to check as we send them out monthly with the Vermont Clean Cities newsletter. But next up, Hannah is going to introduce our next video presentation.
So hi again, everyone. Our next video presentation is going to be Gabe Lurie Wisbaum, who is a senior at Chapman University, where he's studying strategic and corporate communication and entrepreneurship. This past season, Gabe ran a fully electric lawn care operation as part of an eco-equipment supply in Charlotte, Vermont. Gabe uses mean green mowers, Stihl, and Oregon lawn care equipment. So we're going to watch a pre-recorded interview with Gabe along with some electric lawnmower footage. Okay. So here we are, everyone.
So yeah, my name is Gabe Lurie Wisbaum. I've been working with my dad's business, Eco Equipment Supply. I actually created a mowing branch of that business. I have a mean green 60-inch Rival zero-turn lawnmower. I spent 6 months mowing lawns for about 20 different clients, and specifically these clients really wanted a electric lawn care service provider. So that's that was the business model. So the Rival performed really well all season long. I didn't really have any hiccups. There's no maintenance that I had to take care of. It was smooth sailing the entire time. I never had any issues with battery charging or anything like that. Yeah, it really rivaled any conventional lawnmower I've ever used. I didn't notice any difference in terms of performance. If anything, I thought it was a little bit better than, the conventional mowers I've used in the past. Being the operator and sitting on the mower was so much nicer than any experience I've ever had. I could have my headphones in. I didn't even need like ear protectors or anything because it's so quiet. And I didn't get home at the end of the day smelling like fuel. Yeah, overall, very, very great experience. It's important to say that when you're on the mower, you can for sure hear it. It's not like it's completely quiet. When the blade motors are off, it does sound like an electric car, so very silent. However, when the blade motors are on, those things are powerful, so they definitely, make some noise, but it's nowhere near the level of noise that a conventional lawnmower would provide. So the charging really wasn't an issue. The battery lasts 6 to 7 hours long, which is, a full day of mowing for sure. So when I got home at the end of the day, I would plug in the mower and it would charge all night long, and I'd wake up and it would be at 100%. And if you are on kind of a tight schedule, it is important to know that it takes about an hour and 40 minutes for every hour of runtime. But I have a 220 volt charger here at the house. So I would just, take it off the trailer and plug it in every night. And right at the house, just like an electric car, basically.
Great. How does the process compare to refilling a gasoline-powered mower?
Well, with a gasoline-powered mower, you definitely have the advantage of just filling it up on the job. You can't really do that. You can't just charge it at a customer's house. It's a little bit different. You have to, have a station where you're actually plugging it in. But like I said, you can just do that at the end of the day because it's going to last you all day long. You're not going to need to charge it during the day anyways. 220 volt. Here's the charger. The mower.
So how aware are you of any fuel and maintenance savings that come with the electric outfitting? And how important are these savings to you?
For sure. So with a conventional lawnmower, you're going to go through about a gallon of gasoline on average per hour, right? So that's what's gas right now, like $2.25, right? So that's about $2.25 an hour on average. Whereas with the battery powered mowers, it's about 50 cents per hour of runtime. So there's significant cost savings there. And the maintenance is basically zero, meaning, you're always going to have to clean the underside of your deck and you're going to need to clean your mower off. But that's true of a conventional mower as well. You're going to need to sharpen your blade. My favorite qualities of the electric lawnmower would probably be the noise level. I know I really appreciated not having to wear ear protectors and not having ringing ears all day long. And I know my customers really appreciated that as well. That was probably their number one concern with conventional lawnmowers besides the carbon emissions.
What are the qualities of the electric lawnmower that you would change?
I did run into some issues when the grass was really long and really wet, because there's always going to be a balance between the power of the discharge, meaning the lift and the throw of the grass, and the battery life itself. I noticed that maybe the lift and the throw wasn't as strong as a conventional lawnmower when the grass was really wet and really long. That was kind of an issue sometimes. However, overall, great experience. But those.
Thanks, Hannah, for sharing that video. Again, we're all working from home, and in order for us to hear Hannah's video, she had to be unmuted, and we could hear her dogs barking. So she's got really sweet dogs. Next up, Jessica, can you handle the next introduction to Sean? And we're going to watch another video clip.
Excellent. Yes, thank you, Peggy. So this next video, I'd like to introduce the interviewee. Sean Tumblety is the owner of EcoSmart Landscaping in Derry, New Hampshire. They are the first and only zero-emission and totally organic landscaping company in New Hampshire and have been in business since October of 2016. They use the Mean Green Mower products in tandem with Ego handheld products to service the over 350,000 square feet of organic lawns under their management. Now, Sean is unable to join us as he's busy preparing for this winter storm that's supposedly heading to our region. So we're going to be able to watch a pre-recorded interview highlighting the cost of ownership. Go ahead and cue that up, Hannah.
Hannah, we're not getting any volume.
Sorry about that, everyone. Let's try that again.
Today, I'm speaking with Sean Tumblety, Managing Director of EcoSmart Landscaping in Derry, New Hampshire, whose business is based on eco-friendly, zero-emission lawnmowers and electric lawn equipment. Sean, tell us a little bit about your story, developing your landscaping company and your commitment to zero emission technology.
Well, I have a background as an energy broker for 5 years, and we did quite a bit of sustainable work. I also was in the restaurant business for a long time, and a lot of farm to table stuff. So I've always been kind of in the sustainable and organic fields. I noticed a big hole in the market. My dog got sick, and I think it had to do with chemical fertilizers, and that was sort of the catalyst to sort of dive into, what the heck is going on in the landscaping market, and then realizing that, geez, this is totally unregulated.
Great. So what types of electric lawn equipment are you currently using in your business?
We are using 2 zero-turn mowers, battery and solar powered, and a battery-powered walk-behind 48-inch mower. And all our handheld products are just Ego products that are sold at Home Depot.
That's good to know. So they're readily available, easily sourced, at least at this point,
Yes.
if you're looking for them. Can you tell us a little bit about the upfront purchase cost for the equipment and whatever special charging equipment was necessary to go along with it?
Well, it's a tricky question because most of this equipment you don't purchase up front. It's a loan. So I think year one, it was just me. So it was probably spent about $5,000 on handheld and a trailer. And then I got the equipment on a pretty poor loan with a high interest rate, but the immediate upfront cost wasn't a huge obstacle.
And did the charging equipment come with the electric lawnmowers, or did you have to purchase that separately? Or
Yeah, it all comes, and I will say I've worked with Mean Green mowers, and they've been phenomenal. If I ever have any issues, they'll FaceTime. They're based out of Ohio. Everything's made in the U.S., which is also cool.
can you speak at all to the cost of electric versus conventional?
I don't know conventional very well. I know enough people in the industry now. It seems that some of these mowers are roughly double the price of a conventional gas mower. Again, the cost to run are so low. The ROI is 3 to 5 years. So,
Were you able to utilize any incentives if you're purchasing it that through a loan program? Are you able to apply any incentives, or were there any available when you purchased the equipment?
Yeah, there's a federal grant for the solar panel. The two larger zero-turn mowers run with a solar panel.
Okay.
And I think it was like a $3,000 solar credit.
So can you tell me a little bit about the cost of maintaining or fueling, as we say? I know it's charging, obviously, but fueling up that electric lawn equipment.
But basically, when we're charging, it's off-peak hours. So the electricity coming off the grid is actually at a cheaper rate for the supply. So I honestly, I haven't noticed an increase in my electric bill.
So what are your off-peak hours, just out of curiosity? When are you charging, and can you set this equipment to kind of just automatically start charging at that time? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so we're usually done around 3:30 to 5. So we charge the mowers then, and then the batteries for the handhelds are set on a timer to start at 2 a.m. and finish around 7 a.m.
Did the actual cost, or do the actual cost differ from what you expected going into this?
They're lower than I expected. I think I budgeted like $2,500 in maintenance a year for the first couple of years, and maybe I've spent a few $100s.
So no major maintenance or repair issues up to this point.
I can't say enough about how inexpensive it has been to upkeep this equipment in every facet.
Can you speak at all to the total cost of ownership on one of these mowers? And if that's not something you can speak to, can you talk a little bit about like total cost on one of them versus all three?
The total cost of the machine doesn't reflect the savings that the machine will give you over the course of 5-6 years. It's hard to nail down exactly what the savings are, but it seems to be very significant.
That's helpful. Thank you. Can you speak at all to the health and environmental benefits of electric lawn equipment, both for you, for your employees, if you have other employees that are working with these, and also for your customers?
So the marketing piece is zero emission. That's kind of a hot button. It's hot button verbiage, and it's true. But what really excites me, but it's harder to package and sort of sell, is the spillage that is offset. It is great to help reduce the carbon footprint, but the EPA estimates that there's 17 million gallons of gas spilled from filling lawn equipment across the country each year. It speaks to the kind of the poor regulations for this. I had a gas mower growing up. Every time you fill it up, you always spill a few drops, no matter what, at best, So from an environmental stance, yes, the carbon offsets are offsetting the carbon is great. What really excites me is the reduction of spillage into the immediate environment.
Can you tell us a little bit about the impact of your commitment to electrification, basically on your business, on end users? Like I said, do you have employees that are working with you for your company? Would love to hear a little bit about the impact that it's had, and also maybe share some advice on what others should consider in their switch to electric.
Part of my structure has been branding this as something we do, and it's a brand that is in line with my values, and so I don't know what that switch looks like to somebody who doesn't really care and is just doing this for the cost savings. And whatever, either way, it's great. I'd love to see more combustion engines out and more electric in, so more power to you. My team members, they love it. I have 8 full-time folks. Some of them that have come from other landscaping companies. Their ears aren't ringing at the end of the day. They don't smell like gas and oil at the end of the day. They're not filthy from that sort of stuff. So the feedback from my team members is extremely positive. And from a customer perspective, gotten a ton of feedback of how great it is that we're so quiet and how often people don't even realize that we were on site. And I think the customers like it because people want to be involved with environmental stewardship in their own neighborhood. It kind of takes some power back in a world where you feel kind of helpless with some of the environmental concerns going on.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just say, do it. Try to make the switch, whatever your reason is.
We know the technology is ever increasing, so looking forward to seeing what comes to market, and keeping an eye on you and your company. And thank you so much for sharing your experience, Sean. It's great to hear from someone who's hands-on, doing it, experiencing it. So I appreciate your time with us and your feedback.
Great, thank you, Hannah. And now if you can queue up, we're going to watch some video footage that Sean has provided covering the electric lawnmower charging.
This is charging for the Mean Green Mower rival. Pardon the mess as we transition from summer to winter. It's very simple. It's just plugged in the back here. They send you a converter. It's just a normal outlet. The only thing you need to know is you want to make sure that this is unplugged when you're plugging that in. So plug that in first, and then this. And then in reverse, you want to unplug that first, and then unplug that. Basically, you just plug it into the wall when you're putting this in or out. You can arc. That's it.
Thanks, Jessica and Sean. We now are up with a real life human, kind of in virtual person. I'm introducing Adam Holmes. Adam currently serves as the ground supervisor for the University of Vermont, where he supervises a crew of 14 along with several contractors. He's a certified educational facilities professional through the APPA, which is an international education facilities organization. He's been part of the UVM grounds department for 11 years. And prior to his work in the green industry, Adam worked in the energy field as an energy engineer for electric utilities and energy consulting firms, where he conducted energy audits and implemented energy efficiency programs, and then switched his career to start a snow and landscape maintenance company, which served condominiums, associations, commercial and residential customers. So he's really well suited for his position as ground supervisor. And I've been privileged to begin to work with Adam this past year, because I'm based at UVM and looking at how UVM is, the grounds department is fitting into the mission of the university. So Adam's going to talk about the grounds department's experience with electric lawn equipment that they have right now, how UVM is beginning its transition to some electric lawn equipment, and how to evaluate and compare mowers side by side, and then what UVM has found to be the best application for them for the different pieces of equipment. So Adam, take it over, and then Hannah, you have his slides, and I think they're like 4 or 5, and she'll advance them for you, Adam. Thanks.
Thank you, Peggy, and thank you for inviting me to speak on this panel. I'm privileged to do it and offer up some insights into our experience here at the University of Vermont with electric technologies, electric green technologies. And also I wanted to thank Jessica and Hannah for your help with putting this together and with this presentation. I also wanted to note that the University of Vermont's new grounds manager is on this call, Matt Walker. So Matt, feel free to chime in. Also Eric Berliner, who is the Assistant Director of Physical Plant here at the university, is on this call as well. I noticed Jen Green from BED was is one of the panelists, and I just wanted to note that I started off my energy career at BED on the Neighbor Save program, wrapping water heaters and saving water kilowatt hours in demand. So it's kind of fun to see BED participating here. As in particular, they provide an incentive for one of our mowers. So if you can move to the next slide, Hannah, please. I fell into electric technologies sort of by accident here several years ago, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago now, when I was working at the University of Vermont's President's House, and one of the supervisors dropped off that steel electric blower and said, "Hey, why don't you try this out? See what you think." And I kind of looked at it. I'd never seen one before. But I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And what I found was it was very useful in, blowing out the garage, the shed where we keep equipment, blowing off light grass clippings, light leaves in dry conditions. It was very quiet. That blower cost $240 approximately. But it was pretty neat that it had about, and we still have it, has about a 45-minute runtime. And it also freed up our bigger backpack blowers that our leaf crews needed to use. So it was also great to blow out beds as well. It's not great for really heavy leaves, lots of leaves. It's, but for some spot blowing, it was excellent. The other piece of equipment that we tried was the hedge trimmer you see there. It's a steel, I think it's an HAS 56. And we paid $500 $499, just under $500 for that, and found that some benefits to it. The sound level was much lower than a gas trimmer. Anybody who's used gas hedge trimmers knows that you also end up with a lot of fumes all over yourself, and that was a huge benefit with this particular hedge trimmer. I will say that you don't get the extreme power. Like if you wanted to go through some, half-inch diameter twigs, this is not the machine for that. But doing yews and cedar hedges, small shrubs, it's a wonderful tool. And many of you who do this kind of work will know that some of the steel and maybe other hedge trimmers, but I know steel, some of their gas trimmers, the exhaust actually blows into the plant that you're shearing, which isn't great and can burn the shrub, and that's a non-issue with an electric hand tool such as this. Could I have the next slide, please, Hannah? So we decided that because there was commercial electric equipment coming on the market, we decided that, well, we're really a commercial operation. Let's step it up and try some of the new technologies that are on the market. And we really needed another hedge trimmer. So I went out to the local supplier and found that they were providing a deal, a package deal, if we purchased their backpack blower, and that came with a dual port charging system, so you could charge 2 batteries at the same time. Backpack blower takes 2 batteries. And also the device on the lower right-hand side of your slide, you'll see it connects to the backpack batteries, and it's a very lightweight dummy adapter that plugs into the hedge trimmer. And the idea with that was to lessen the weight of the hedge trimmer, because with the battery in that, it's pretty heavy. So that, I would say that's one of the downsides of, when you get more power and more longevity with the battery, you get a little bit more weight to it. It's a little unwieldy. So we thought we'd try the cord to that device. And what we found with that is that because the battery slides out of the left-hand side of the hedge trimmer, that the cord is sort of, if you're right-handed, it's kind of in your way. And it was probably one of those things that the adapter they came up with after they came out with the hedge trimmer, and didn't think that, well, it could be in the way. So that's one of the downsides with that particular piece of equipment. The backpack blower we found is much more ergonomic than the hand blower. It goes for about the length of a tank of gas. So you'll deplete the 2 batteries. If you have that on full speed, it'll go, with a traditional tank of gas, maybe 45 minutes or so, or maybe pushing an hour. So that and then once those batteries are depleted, you either have to have some backup batteries to slide in, or you have to put the blower away and charge it up. The ergonomics of the backpack blower, of course, are better than the hand blower. Your forearm doesn't get tired out, but it is pretty heavy with the two batteries in the back. It's worth it if you're interested to go to a dealer and try them on and see how they fit you. But I will say that the commercial backpack blower, we felt, is still not quite at the level that the level as far as the power goes of gas equipment. I mean, when you have to move a lot of leaves fast, and wet, heavy, huge piles of leaves, this is not the machine for that. This is more the machine for maybe the large property, that with folks that really want to cut down on the noise because it's quite a bit quieter than a gas trimmer. Maybe they want some environmental benefits, but it's we wanted to enter the foray of electric equipment and this was the step up, and so there are pros and cons to the technology. Oh, by the way, the package deal for that was, it cost $876 for those 3 pieces of equipment. Not shown is the dual port charger and the 2 batteries that came with it as well. Could I have the next slide, please, Hannah? Thank you. We now have a 60-inch width deck, 0 turn. It's a Greenworks mower, a GX60R is what it is. One of the things I'll say, we demoed a couple different mowers, and because this technology, these technologies are growing so quickly, there are new mowers on the market, it seems like, every 6 months. So you know, it's worth demoing the mowers that are on the market. We paid roughly $22,000 for this mower and received a $3,500 incentive from Burlington Electric Department. So we paid roughly just over $19,000 for this machine. And I found out yesterday that this same machine is now offered at $13,800 before any incentive. So it's really getting comparable to gas pricing, and probably even lesser, a lower price than a gas mower when you take into account the incentives that are being offered. We like the feel of this mower. It was more comparable to a gas mower. However, the electric, the feel of the controls is different than the hydraulic controls on a gas 0-turn mower. And for guys who are used to a gas 0-turn mower and they've used them for years, it takes some adjustment to getting used to the electric mowers. My guys, a lot, they tend to want to accomplish a lot and as quickly as they can and be as efficient as they can. So they're often out there full speed mowing on their 0-turn mowers. And what they've told me about the electric mower is, because the controls are so sensitive, that they're not able to go full speed and mow. They have to back off some. So that's kind of one of the reasons that they, in general, tend to gravitate toward the gas mower. Especially when they when they know that they're sort of behind the 8 ball. Maybe it's rained a few days and they've got to catch up, and they need to just put the hammer to it and get some mowing accomplished. One of the things we liked about this mower, and we chose to go with it, was it could be stored in cold weather. I just checked we've had it out in the cold since we stopped mowing this year, and it was at 99% charge. So we didn't want to have to remove the mower batteries and store them in warm weather, warm conditions, I should say. This mower has a lot of power. It's not as loud as a gas mower, but I would recommend wearing ear protection. The guys, I interviewed my guys before doing this panel, and one of the things they mentioned is that gas mowers tend to have a little bit more lift, and that's probably due to gas mowers tend to be, I would say, overpowered. So what that means is the lift really stands the grass up straight so that you get a really nice cut. The other thing, the feedback that I received from my mowers is they get a lot of feedback from people who walk by and enjoy the quote unquote striping of the lawns, the ball field effect of the lawns that they mow, and the gas mowers, because they're quite overpowered, give you a little bit more of a stripe than the electric mower does. At least our electric mower does. You still get a stripe, but it's just not as defined and not as striking to the eye. So that was one of the pieces of feedback that I got. We have 2 full-time mowing crews in the summer, two people per crew, and this mower often would be used as sort of a fill in when the grass was really growing fast and we needed to assign additional people to mowing. We'd have a big field mower, a person assigned to that, and typically a person to use the electric mower. And what we found is some people who use the electric mower tended to use it at with the blade setting at low speed, and they'd get more runtime out of the mower, close to a full day of use, compared to the other person who would use the mower who wanted the blades at full speed at all the time, and he'd get about 4 hours of runtime out of the machine. So I think that if you're going to consider purchasing one of these, it's wise to just think about the mowing conditions, and if you've got dry grass conditions, operate the speeds at the lower setting, and you'll get a longer runtime. Some of the interesting features on this that are kind of neat. It's got a light built in, an LED light built in, so if you're one of those people who tends to mow in the wee hours of the evening, it's nice to have that. But also it's got an electric deck control, so the manual foot control, you don't need to do that. You don't need to use that because it's got an electric button. You simply push. We did run into a problem with this machine when we hit one of the operators hit a manhole cover, and he misjudged. The manhole cover was up high, and he was slightly off the pavement, and the blade hit the manhole cover and stopped the motor dead, and actually broke the motor. So that was a cost of over $1,000 to replace that, just to purchase the replacement costs. So that was a bit of an inconvenience and a surprise to us that it would be that expensive. Typically, if you hit something like that with a gas mower, you're going to bend the blade and not destroy the spindle. And replacing a bent blade is a simple thing. But one can attribute that to learning curve too. To be a little bit more alert, a little more careful. So we love the fact that there's no gas, no oil, no fumes, and I think that's pretty much our take on this machine. So thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah, it's great to see that UVM is trying these technologies. And as Adam mentioned, I think it's really important for folks who are interested, contact your Clean Cities coordinator, contact the dealer reps, and really try to demo the equipment in the way that you would normally use it, so that you get a good sense of how the equipment will handle your workload. And we can talk more about that in the Q&A session. We just have one final quick presentation, and this is Steve Wisbaum. Steve is one of the first stakeholders I worked with when I started at Vermont Clean Cities. And if anyone knows Steve, you will know he is nothing if he is not enthusiastic about electric lawn equipment. So Mean Green commercial mowers have been on the market since 2010, and Steve has been Mean Green's Northeast sales rep since 2016. His advocacy for the transition to electric lawn care practices has included helping to create the incentives for commercial lawnmowers, as I mentioned earlier, as well as a low interest loan program offered by the Vermont State Employees Credit Union. I also supported Steve on that. So that's another great avenue for some at least low-cost funding. Through these advocacy efforts, there are now at least 30 commercial electric mowers being operated in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, and northwestern New York State by at least 10 lawn care companies, Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Rec, UVM, Dartmouth College, City of Burlington, et cetera, et cetera. So Steve is going to give us a big, broad overview of the general benefits of electric lawn care equipment, and then we'll go into Q&A. So go ahead, Steve. Thanks.
Thank you, and greetings to everybody, and thanks to Jessica and Hannah and Peggy for organizing this event. I was supposed to talk about the benefits of electric lawnmowers, but that's already been sort of covered. I'm just going to try and just mention a few things that may not have been covered or some clarifications. Also wanted to I was also going to give an overview of who's already using commercial mowers, which Jessica has just done, but I'll get a little more detailed. Before I do that, I just wanted to clarify a few things. Going back to Gabe's video, it was mentioned that he used the Oregon equipment. I have both. We have both, but we really use the steel equipment the most. And we also used, as you'll find when you look into any of these manufacturers, not only are there a lot of different manufacturers of these products, but within these manufacturers, there's the homeowner versions, and then the commercial versions. And so we use the commercial version. The battery also fit into an adapter that we just put into a light backpack. Has a cord, and that battery, it was amazing, charged in about 15 minutes and gave about an hour of runtime with a very powerful string trimmer. And what else? Also, just wanted to mention in terms of the cold temperature storage, Mean Green's their operator's manual before had suggested that they should not be stored below 15 degrees, but their battery manufacturer has done a lot of testing, and they are changing that. And they're also able to, the Mean Green batteries are also able to be stored outside in the winter. And in terms of the repair of the blade motor that Adam mentioned, the Mean Green blade motors cost about $350 if one does break, and it's very unusual. In fact, of all my customers, our customers in this area, I don't think any of them have had to replace a blade motor after some of them are operating for about 8 years. Anyway, so economic benefits has already been talked about: the lower cost of electricity, no service costs other than standard cleaning the mower deck and the blades, and then minimal repair costs. There really, other than the blade motors, there really isn't anything else, any other moving part that's going to need to be replaced. So the repair and service costs are really minimal, as Sean mentioned in his video. Environmental benefits, already mentioned, zero tailpipe emissions. The greenhouse gas emissions, you're looking at about, most people don't know this, but when you burn a gallon of gas or diesel, you're releasing about 20 pounds of CO2. And that compares to about 3/4 of a pound of CO2 that's associated with the 2.8 kilowatts per hour consumed by electric mower. So it's so less than a pound of CO2 for an hour of runtime with an commercial electric mower versus 20 pounds for a commercial conventional mower. And I also, that was another clarification I wanted to make. In Peggy's slide, she mentioned something between 500 and 1,000 gallons of fuel saved by electric mower. Really important. And there was a picture above it of a that slide had a picture of a walk-behind residential mower, and just really important to clarify that 500 to 1,000 gallons, that would be for a commercial lawnmower, not a residential lawnmower. A residential lawnmower probably uses maybe 5-10 gallons a year, something like that. Still significant when you add up all the residential mowers that are operating in the country and the planet. And now that there's so many really great options for electric walk-behind mowers, I think we're going to see the end of gas mowers, push mowers, especially in the residential sector, very soon. What else? In terms of who's using commercial electric mowers now in Vermont and New Hampshire, there's the UVM Greenworks mower, and then there's a couple being operated by a contractor who mows for Wake Robin, which is a large retirement community in Shelburne. And then there's about 25 mean green mowers being operated by about 6 contractors in Vermont. We're just talking Vermont here. A couple homeowners associations, about 4 homeowners with large properties. Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation is operating a mean green zero turn. Burlington Parks and Rec and Burlington, Jen mentioned, and Burlington Electric Department. And of those 25 mowers, about 8 of them have been operating for 3 to 8 years. Again, with overwhelming positive feedback from the owners, operators on the performance and cut quality, and no significant repair issues. In New Hampshire, Dartmouth College has been using a mean green mower for a few years. There's Sean, who was interviewed, who has at least one, he said 2, but I think he just bought 1 zero turn. And then Proctor Academy just this morning placed an order for a rival for next season. So that was, that pretty much covers it. I do, if there's time, depending on questions, I have a list of typical concerns, questions that come up. I'd be happy to talk about those as time allows. And again, I'm happy to take questions as well. So thanks.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. And for the record, that picture of the commercial lawnmower is my teenage daughter, who I dragged out of bed for a motor week filming and felt like I owed it to her to at least put her picture up on the slide. Anyway, so I want to thank all our panelists for your perspectives. We have another poll that Hannah's going to put up, and then we're going to open up to question and answer. Hannah's been going through the questions coming here in the chat, which has been pretty active. So we'll start with some of those, and recognizing that there are a bunch of different experts in our audience as well. We ask if you can raise your hand if you want to respond to someone's question, just so we can kind of have a dynamic but still kind of respectful conversation here. So go ahead and answer your poll, and then Hannah will start with a question.
Okay, everyone, so there's been a lot of questions in the chat, which has been great. Some of them have been answered already, thanks to, like Peggy said, some audience experts. So the first one from this event goes back to the beginning from Jim Sullivan, asking about some potential for a rebate for residential riding mowers that are, specifically not push mowers. So whoever,
I don't know.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, excuse me, Hannah. Jennifer Green here from the Burlington Electric Department. Of course, we offer the $100 for the push mowers. This hasn't come up before, so really interesting thought. Of course, Steve may have thoughts about working with utilities outside of Burlington, because we're a fairly densely packed city, and I'm not honestly familiar. Just thinking sort of anecdotally about my neighbors and friends who uses a ride on residential mower. Peggy may have some thoughts on that, and I know Steve could as well.
Yeah, I don't know, because I work with kind of the fleets and municipality side as far as the residential ride mower. I mean, we live in Burlington. I don't know anybody who has a ride-on mower. I have to go to Grand Isle County. Adam, can I call on you? Do you have a sense of any commercial, I mean, of any residential ride-ons? Not to put you on the spot, but going to.
Yes, actually, we were just talking about a residential mower before this went live, which is an Ego. I believe they're sold at Home Depot, and they have a residential 42-inch deck zero-turn mower that it's a lower voltage. Ours are about 82 volts, I think. Terry might correct me on that, but I believe they're about half that voltage, maybe about 46 or so volts. So probably you won't get the same power, the same runtime, but it would be appropriate for a smaller residential lawn.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Peggy, sorry to interrupt you. I wonder, can I quickly ask Stephen? I'm curious if other utilities are offering residential rebates for the ride on. Do you know if that's the case or not?
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you are. Go ahead.
Okay, so interesting question. I actually reached out to Green Mountain Power. They were looking into it, and I don't know the status. They were doing some background research to see what the emissions the greenhouse gas reduction potential is, because that's what ultimately the incentives have to be directly tied to the greenhouse gas reductions. But I will say that, Adam, you've mentioned a couple times the Ego, and I don't know whether you're confusing that with the Ryobi. I know that Ryobi is making, in the last couple of years, has been making a riding mower. I've heard Cub Cadet, although I've heard people having problems with those. Those are in like the $3,000 to $4,000 range, which is definitely more reasonable price for a lot of homeowners who need a riding mower. But at that price, they're not very sturdy machines. But there is going to be more coming out, I'm sure. Now that DR Power Equipment has purchased Mean Green, I'm sure they're going to be working on a residential version. But I'm imagining we're still going to be looking at, for a quality machine, the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 range, which is going to be a little bit more. And that's why the incentives are important, which is why I've reached out to Green Mountain Power and some other utilities to encourage them to think about that category. So, and if they hear this from other people, other than me, it'd probably help, push it along.
So Peggy, could I comment on that?
Sure thing. Is that Terry?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So Greenworks did introduce a residential zero-turn mower this past fall, which we were very successful with. The selling price on that unit is $69.99. It is a 48-inch deck, and it is 82 volt. And Adam, yes, your machine is 82 volts. So this is a little brother to the commercial machine. It's still very rugged, still uses the same technology, and just under $7,000. So we also are releasing a 42-inch residential unit for $49.99 for this spring. And we're also introducing an actual riding lawn tractor this spring as well. That, once again, is a 82 volt and is a 42-inch cut, and that's going to be $43.99.
Great, thank you, Terry. I'm gonna ask if you can actually, if you can put some of those links into the chat, and if you can't, if you can, maybe I'll circle back with you, because I'd like to share some of these resources with participants. Now I'm going to call on Linda Patterson. You had your hand up. Do you have a question?
Hi, thanks everyone. This is great and super exciting. So I have heard in my discussions about this, and I believe it, that one of the things that might be challenging in terms of shifting is the cultural basis of gas versus electric. And I've heard everything from, the mowers really like that sense of power and noise and vibration and just feeling like they're maybe on their motorcycle or in a powerful truck or something, and that riding on an electric mower just won't be the same experience. And I don't think it's a funny thing. I think it's real for some people in terms of making such a cultural shift. And so I think that's primarily my question, is how you deal with the transition in terms of tradition. There's so much ritual around managing and using gas-powered anything compared to electric, right? Whether it's with cars or trucks or motorcycles or lawn equipment.
Linda, that was such a great question. Certainly it's something that Jessica and I have talked about, that culture shift, and it's exactly right. I'm actually going to ask Adam, who, if he can talk to it, because I've spoken to some of his team, and there's some folks who, as we say, have kind of sipped the Kool-Aid and are really into it, and other folks who, are kind of set in their ways, and how we can nudge folks along. He may have some strategies. I mean, I know Public Works and Burlington Parks and Rec, there are folks there who've needed a nudge or sometimes a shove, but we want to bring people along. So Adam, any insights into this?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, Steve Wisbaum and I had a conversation about this a few days ago, and he asked me that, and actually requested that I talk with my guys and ask them about, do you really just like the noise, and so I did talk with them about that, and they didn't say that they preferred the noise over the electric mower, but what I was thinking is that, for our folks on staff, we gain these people from, when we hire them, they've been in the landscaping market, they've been in this landscaping field, and so it's a particular type of person that just sort of gravitates to wanting to run equipment. I have found that the people who gravitate to our electric mower tend to be more the folks that like to do pruning, and tend to be sort of more in the green industry, more of more I don't know how to explain it, but they tend to be our pruners, not our mowers, which is kind of interesting to me. But I think that maybe as the market moves toward electricity, and that's what our pool of applicants, when we hire new people, what they're used to, I think we're going to probably see more folks are going to be gravitating toward electric mowers in the future.
Thanks. Yes, that's true. Steve, do you have a response, comment?
Yeah, I've seen that again and again, and yet things are changing. And there's going to be some people who are attached to the loud noise and using gas, but that's changing, and they will change. It's the younger people, or even older people, that are more tuned into the environmental issues that the planet is facing, and how the role that people can play in doing something. And that's the thing about electric lawnmowers. One of the reasons I've become such an enthusiast is that it's easy. It's one of the easiest things that we can do. It's a low entry point. And it's also an opening. Once people use electric lawnmowers, then they might think more seriously. And I know Dave Roberts was on this from Drive Electric. They're more likely to look at other other electric technologies. So low-hanging fruit, if you will.
I'm going to jump in. I just, sorry, Terry, did you want to respond there? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would put a little bit of input into my experience of putting somebody doing demonstrations and putting somebody on a mower. Most of the time it's a giddy smile because they like the lack of noise. But I do appreciate her question, because I have experienced it because we sell a battery UTV, a side-by-side, and those things can be very peppy, and a lot of guys want to race those things, and those guys really like the sound. So I have had people get in our battery UTV, take it for a spin, go, wow, that thing is really peppy, but I just don't like the fact that it doesn't make noise. So there is, a little bit of guys wanting to hear that revving of the engine, but I have not experienced it on a lawn tractor.
Terry, go ahead and stay on the screen too, because I have a question here from the audience that I'm going to ask. So Terry is a Greenworks representative, and Steve here representing Mean Green. We have a question from the audience on liking to know the cost of the commercial zero turn. I don't know if Terry, if you want to go first and speak to that, and then Steve, can you speak at all to the costs?
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. Our list price on our 60-inch zero-turn mower and our 52-inch are both $13,799. So as Adam had mentioned earlier, they were in the $20,000 range, and we dropped them from the $20,000 range. We got it down into the $18,000 range, and just this fall, we dropped it down to the $13,800, and that's been done through the more you sell, the more you produce, you can bring your costs down, and also the way we're doing our manufacturing has also brought the cost down, and we're just basically passing it right on to the consumer, because when a guy's going to buy a high-end $12,000 commercial lawnmower, to try and Steve can attest to this, to try and tell them 4 or 5 years you're going to pay it back in the price of gas is a hard conversation. But now that we're roughly $1,000 more than a gasoline machine, it's a real game changer. Now. So we don't have to do as hard a sell on the gasoline savings that you're basically buying your gas up front when you buy this extra machine, because you're looking at roughly $3,500 a year in gas. We figured at about $2.49 a gallon. So then you can justify at that point $10,000 more than a regular gas machine. Now we're down to $1,000, which is I think you're going to see a lot more people jump on the mower because of the pricing.
Excellent, thank you. And Steve, I'd love to hear from your perspective.
So we were very similar price. I think we were in 2020, our equivalent zero-turn mower with the 60-inch stack was just under 24,000. Whether that'll change now that DR power equipment is involved, I don't know. But hearing this from Terry, if Mean Green didn't know that before, they will be hearing that, and that's going to be that's pretty huge and great. As many mowers as I've sold, I know I would have sold more if we can get the price down, and people would say, oh, will the price come down, the price of batteries? And Mean Green is made in the U.S., and so they're paying their employees a very good wage, and and there's just costs. They're using very high quality materials, and so I'm not sure how much they can be able to reduce their price to compete with $14,000, but we'll see. And people will, as with everything, the saying is you get what you pay for. Maybe what you're getting for that, $14,000 is going to be equivalent to what you're getting with a Mean Green, but time will tell. And the more people that are using them, the better for everybody. So that's what I want to see.
Thank you both. That's just it. We're engaged here and wanting to see cleaner options for our environment and other alternatives for these affordable domestic products and technology. So thank you, everybody. And we do have another poll that we'd like to go ahead and get on the screen, and we'll kind of start to wrap things up as we're nearing the top of the hour here. We'll go ahead and launch that poll, Hannah, whenever you're ready. Great. So here we want to know, how useful is the information that we provided in this webinar towards procuring electric lawn equipment for your business or your community for those municipal members on board? Was it very useful? Was it somewhat useful? Was it not useful because you need more information? In that case, please feel free to contact your Clean Cities coordinator, Peggy in Vermont, and me, Jessica, here in New Hampshire. And just go ahead and let me know, Hannah, when you've closed that.
I think people can answer as long as they're still on the call. And a reminder that if you missed any of the polls earlier in the presentation, feel free to go back and answer them. Thank you.
So just being cognizant of the time, I know there's still a bunch of hands up. We really do want to end on time. So if you have a question, please enter it in the chat box. We'll send out the recording. We'll send out a list of these resources. And for those who have questions, we can go ahead and try to address them by emailing our panel of experts. So thank you to our panelists, to Steve, to Adam, to Jennifer Green, to Gabe, and to Sean for participating, and to all of you for sitting on this. This is really exciting about this technology. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Peggy. And
Thanks,
everybody,
everyone.
as we enter the new year, mow greener.
Mow greener. Yeah. Thanks, folks. See y'all later.
Thank you.